I built this system in 2009. The goal was for it to have the ability to work with virtual technology, photo and video editing, and of course a few high-end games. I also attempted to make this a future-proof system. What does that mean? Well, this means that this computer is supposed to have some value in the distant future. For the most part, I think I was able to make it work. The core components of this system have not been changed. Yes, I've changed a few, but not too much. The cost at the time that I originally built this was about $2,300, and that includes the monitor. Some would call this excessive. However, when you look at the cost of desktop systems from major manufacturers, their systems have little room for upgrading and usually become obsolete within 1 or 2 years after purchase. There's nothing wrong with that, but spending $1,000 to $1,500 on a decent system every 2 years, yeah, that begins to add up. As I stated, I wanted this system to be able to utilize a virtual environment. And in order to do that, I needed to have storage and RAM as my first priority. So what I did was I got a lot of it. It's not that unusual that a virtual machine take up several gigabytes of storage and use a fair amount of RAM. Therefore, I started off with a decent amount of RAM and storage in my system. First couple of years it was no problem, but over the course of several years I had to add and modify the storage capabilities at the very least. Additionally, while I worked in a virtual environment, I worked with the following operating systems: Windows Vista, Windows 7, Windows 10, Windows Server 2008, Windows Server 2012, Ubuntu, a form of Linux, and for the most part, it's been very nice. Now, one of the things that I have to say while working with virtual environments is that when you run more than 4 VMs on this particular system, it does become a problem. And the reason why I say that is that I try to build each VM as close to production as possible. Meaning, I wanted to get the full feel of what an actual system would look like. Now, what that generally means is that it's going to put a very significant push on the hardware that I have installed. For the most part, running 4 is not a problem, but once I get above 4, then I see there is a problem. And yes, I can restrict the usage of RAM and thereby adding more VMs, but the purpose of having them run it as close to production as possible is to get the full learning capabilities of using the multiple virtual machines. Add in virtual switches and routers, and I have been able to slow my systems down on numerous occasions.